Raw is long, SmackDown's getting bizarre, NXT is just a lot of fun. So that's what we're going to talk about. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with your 26th of April NXT review. Gonna take a minute to encourage you to go up in that little exclamation mark right there. Go check out the new Raw 3-count series that we're doing. Go check out, obviously, the latest Ask the Phoenix Q&A. Couple of weeks left to get in if you want to be part of the Q&A in May. And I said it at the beginning, let's talk about NXT. NXT was a lot of fun tonight. It starts off with one of my absolute favorites, and that is Nikki Cross. But she doesn't make an entrance. She doesn't do anything like that. She's already at the ring when the show starts. She basically frantically crawls into the ring, crawls out of the ring. She's looking for a microphone. She's looking for something. She finds the ring announcer, whose name I don't know. She doesn't even bother taking the microphone. The ring announcer's just sort of sitting there all solemn and still with the microphone sitting in their lap. She basically leans over into the ring announcer's lap and calls out Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose comes out, and they have this sort of weird Siamese cat kind of size you up, stare down type thing, while the crowd is not only chanting Ruby, but chanting for them to kiss, which I'm pretty sure both of them were trying to stay serious on this, made both of them laugh, but because they're both maniacal, laughing just made them sound more maniacal. And then 3, 2, 1, they brawl. They brawl outside where Ruby Riot eats the steps, and then she eats the LED board, and then she eats a Thez press by Nikki Cross on the metal rampway. There's a referee pull apart, which is always a win. I love it because these women are not particularly large, and there's three per woman. So there's 6 referees trying to pull apart these crazy women as the crowd chants, "Let them fight," and I agree. That's your opener. Not hardly a word was said other than Ruby Rose, where are you? Or sorry, not Ruby Rose. She's in movies and stuff. Ruby Riot, where are you? Other than that, there wasn't a promo. It was just a very simple call out, a very simple brawl, a very simple pull apart, enough to make the crowd honestly chant "Let them fight." We see a repeat of the Bobby Roode promo from last week that was interrupted by Hideo Itami. Standoff, big slap, taking off the jacket, the whole thing, GTS. Now, somebody pointed out on my Twitter shortly after last week's NXT, Hideo Itami uses the GTS. He's probably going to get a title shot at NXT TakeOver Chicago. Oh yes, the CM Punk chants will be ringing out loud and proud. Andrade, CN, Almas, and I'm really glad this wasn't the main event, taking on the returning Drew McIntyre, who comes in. He's badass, like he was in TNA when he did the whole, get behind me, or whatever the hell the gimmick was at the time, stand up for wrestling, and all that sort of thing. It's funny, I mentioned before that his music is different. It's sort of like it's bagpipes, but it's also kind of rock. But it goes with his old Videotron from back in the day when he had Broken Dreams, and it doesn't sync up well time-wise, but it doesn't stop the crowd from chanting "Chosen One" at Drew McIntyre. Double choke by Drew to start, boots by Almas, and stiff chops by Drew all the way up the ramp. A trip, a snake eyes on the steps, and a boot by Almas. Corner chops by Almas and body shots by Drew. Mudhole by Almas, but then he gets him down on the ground in the corner, in the middle of that mudhole stomp, and slaps him across the face. And he sort of has this sort of an evil Hulk Hogan Hulk up moment where every time I don't know how to pronounce it, I don't know how to say it properly, but every time if any of you have seen the movie The Crow, where you get that punch and you immediately snap back with that dead, like that really cold dead stare that Drew McIntyre again mastered in TNA. He comes back with this huge flurry. It's basically a double choke, beat down in the corner, splash, axe handle, chops, power slam, running boot, all in succession, all get a really good win for Drew McIntyre. This time around, if Drew McIntyre is serious and they promote him properly, Drew McIntyre could be a fucking badass. And he's kicking the shit out of Cien Almas, which is always going to win points with me. So now think about this for a second. We resurrected the career of Heath Slater by putting him with Rhino and making him the inaugural NXT champion. We filled Jinder Mahal with a bunch of steroids, and now we're giving him a title shot, and now Drew McIntyre is getting the classic NXT treatment. all three members of 3MB are looking promising right now. Did you ever think those words would come out of your, my, or anybody else's mouth? But it's pretty good, and it was a good match. Cien, he did what he was supposed to do, a lot of posing, a lot of preening, that stupid little almost Rey Mysterio-esque pose that he does in the ropes that's already getting old, but whatever. We then get a video package on Roderick Strong. It's called Who is Roderick Strong Part 1. I didn't write anything down because I was honestly stopping to have a look at this. I don't watch ROH, and I don't watch a lot of indie stuff, as you guys know. I've heard the name Roderick Strong mentioned by people like Heel Steven, people like JD from NY, people like OKFabe, etc. I've heard the name, but before he came to the WWE and to the NXT system, I didn't know much about him. So I kicked back and I watched this, and it's basically, the first part of it anyway, because I didn't catch all of it, is sort of the don't think I've had this, great life and that everything was handed to me and I had the picture perfect existence. I had a lot of struggles growing up. My parents, their relationship with me was kind of toxic. One was on drugs, one was drinking. There was a lot of violence and unhealthy situations, and it's good. And it's not a pity me thing. It's not a TJ Perkins, I lived in my car, rah, but it's a good little thing for somebody like me who doesn't follow the indies and doesn't know really who Roderick Strong is, other than this great guy that showed up in NXT and is a great wrestler. They're going to do part 2 next week, and that's great. Kona Reeves, sorry about your luck, you've got Alistair Black. Quick flurry by Reeves in the corner, and basically even the commentators say it out loud what we're all thinking in the crowd. Well, good try, kid. A series of strikes by Black, an armbar, some more crazy strikes. He knocks out Reeves, and then he sits down, and he does the whole meditation bit that he does in his entrance. Alistair Black has one of the greatest entrances we've seen in NXT in a long time. Not because it's really loud and rich and extravagant like a Shinsuke Nakamura or a Finn Balor or a Bobby Roode or anybody like that. It's so different, and he's got this really violent but yet calm, like duck on the water mentality. The metaphor duck on the water, where the water looks all clear and the duck looks like he's relaxed as hell, but inside the feet are just going fucking crazy. You get that feeling in a really, really sinister way with Alistair Black, and he never looks like his heart rate raises. He never looks like he catches his breath. He never looks like anything. But he does a whole bunch of crazy strikes that knock out his opponent, and then he sits down, and it's a confidence building thing, and it's a psychological thing. If you can remember back in the day when Booker T thought he had the match well in hand, so he would take a minute to do the spinneroonie. It's like, I'm so confident that I've beaten you down, I can do a spinneroonie. Same thing with Scott Steiner, when he would stop beating up his opponent and just do the push-ups. This is a very similar thing, but with the meditation thing, and like I say, it's all very surreal, it's all very duck on the water, and it's all very good. But then he goes back to his opponent, Kona Reeves, who I know nothing about and don't really give a shit about, and he lifts him up, but he doesn't even lift him up because he's limp on the ground. He's limp on the ground, but he just sort of sticks a toe up under his chin, and he basically uses that to lift his opponent back to his feet to hit that absolutely devastating Black Mass round kick for the obvious win. Alistair Black, along with Drew McIntyre and along with the ladies that we saw open the show, it's a very, very badass tone set for this week's episode of NXT. Nikki Cross and Ruby Riot get signed to a match by William Regal. Hey, they've got a problem. They should go out there and solve it. Sanity's not here. We're going to have a one-on-one rah. Bottom line, the match doesn't happen because Nikki Cross attacks Ruby Riot in the entranceway. They brawl on the ramp. Facebuster on the ramp by Cross, and then she spears her into the LED board on the ring, which is always the one thing I will say. I still to this day think WWE adding the LED boards on the side of the ring makes the ring look dumb. I'm not going to change my mind on that, but it does make it a little more effective when somebody gets speared into the apron, because they're not just getting speared into, okay, there's a bar here, but then the rest of it's cloth and open space where we keep extra tables and extra chairs, and, Mick Foley keeps the barbed wire bat. It's a solid, not only a solid piece, but if they ever wanted to play it up, you could run somebody into that. It's electrical. They could electrocute them if the hardcore match Shane and Kane and when he fried his nuts or something along those lines. But there's a lot you could do with that as a weapon in a situation like this. Snap suplex on the ramp by Ruby Riot. They trade some headbutts. The referees pull them apart, and then Ruby hits a stage dive on Nikki Cross. The referees get in there again, and the only way that they can get Nikki Cross out of there and stop this brawl from continuing even more and ruining the main event is to literally grab Nikki Cross by her arms and legs and carry her out of the arena. Which is great. Crowd continues to chant, let them fight. If this is not the main women's match at TakeOver Chicago, they're missing the trick. They really, really are. I get that you want to play up Asuka versus Ember Moon again. You can let that simmer. You can skip an entire TakeOver, in my opinion, and you can have that simmer. I mean, we all know, if you've read the dirt sheets, we all know what's actually happening. But NXT is missing the trick by not letting these girls just go and have a fucking hardcore match or a falls count anywhere or something like that. Let the titles sit one out, because this is the first, and I'm going to talk about this probably at a later date, but this is the first NXT takeover that they've paired up with a pay-per-view that hasn't been a Big Four pay-per-view. If I'm not mistaken, they've always been paired up with SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and obviously WrestleMania. So WWE has a very A pay-per-view and B pay-per-view way of doing things. If you want to have it that one of your champions doesn't defend at this particular takeover, yeah, a lot of people will complain, and yeah, I can agree with them in theory. But if you want to show your women's division, as I've said a lot about on NXT, there's a lot of things going on in the NXT women's division other than the title feud. And that's great. And you could throw this match on TakeOver and prove that. And I think it would be fucking great. Give these girls, I don't even know. You can't really have a ladder match because it's not a title match. They'd need something to go up and get. But some sort of stipulation. Hell, let them have a steel cage match. Something like that. It could be really, really good. As I say, referees carry out Nikki Cross and it's all good. William Regal announces next week, as we all know, if we've read ahead, which I did, which I shouldn't do, but whatever, there is a #1 contender battle royal for the women's championship match at TakeOver Chicago. I would really love it more if this was a gauntlet match or a some sort of, like, you know, one person leaves, the next one's in, because you just got a mass of people. Whereas if you go one to the next, to the next, to the next, you get your lower card in the women's division and your middle card of the women's division to really each have a little bit of spotlight, strengthen the whole division as a whole. We all know what's going to happen. I know, I get it, but there's certain things. I expect more from NXT. I expect more from SmackDown. That's why I pointed out how bizarre SmackDown was last night. That's why I'm saying tonight on NXT, this is good. What they did tonight with Ruby Riot and Nikki Cross was great. You could play it up a little more, and I wish they would. Tyler Bate versus Jack Gallagher for the UK Championship. Now, this is cool. This gives the announcers a chance to talk about the fact that sometime in the future, we're going to have a UK tournament, or a UK Championship show. Basically a UK version of NXT with one belt to fight over, which is odd, but whatever. But it is kind of cool to see one representative from the Cruiserweight division, 205 Live, CWC, etc., in Jack Gallagher, take on the reigning champion of the UK division. And it's not in the UK tournament, and it's not on the UK show, and it's not on Raw, and it's not on 205 Live, and it's not on the CWC. The platform they're using is NXT. So everybody wins, and by proxy, the UK Championship has become the mid-card title on NXT. It's all good. It's very bizarre for me to take notes on these types of matches with the stiff, mechanical UK style. I've done the best I can, obviously, and obviously there's a lot of people out there that could do it a lot better than me, but it's very robotic yet very fluid. Does that make sense? It's very robotic, it's very stiff, it's very like I say, mechanical, but at the same time, it's almost one fluid motion throughout the whole match, especially with all the fucking arm bars. Oh, fuck yes. Anyways, Tyler Bate and Jack Gallagher come down. They're announced for the championship match. It's the main event. They have the handshake, which is cool. It's something you know from the CWC, from the UK tournament, from watching these guys on 205 Live, and watching the purple ropes on Raw. Chain wrestling to start. Each one works the other one's arm right away. Wrist lock by Jack and a headlock by Bate. Full Nelson by Jack, an ankle lock, a wrist lock, and an arm bar. Transition to transition to transition to transition. I'm going to work your arm. I'm going to work your elbow. I'm going to work your wrist. I'm going to work your head. I'm going to work your shoulder. It just, like I say, it flows from one to the other. I can't say anything other than that. Wrist lock by Jack, who stomps on the hands and then follows up with a headbutt. Double arm bar by Jack, and they trade monkey flips. The trading of the monkey flips looked like more of a gymnastics exposition than a wrestling match. It bordered on really cool and corny. It's on the line. It really is. Dropkick by Jack, deadlift German by Bate, deadlift vertical by Bate, running headbutt by Jack, and another headbutt as they get back in the ring. While the crowd, who always don't, while the crowd, who never disappoint in the NXT arena, chant both these guys. Uppercuts by Jack, and he goes back to the wrist lock once again, but a rolling kick and a Tyler Driver 97 gets the, let's be real, predictable win for Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate's pretty cool, and you see them several times in the match. They do the, put up your dukes stance, which really makes you think, these guys could have fought the Vaudevillains if the Vaudevillains were still a thing. This was a really cool show, because you had that sort of like that badass, nobody gives a shit feel. You had it with the girls at the beginning, you had it with the girls that almost had their match, you had it with the reinvigorated Drew McIntyre, you had it with Alistair Black. Sorry about your luck, Kona Reeves. Sorry about your luck, Andrade Cien Almas. Sorry about your luck, all the referees that tried to pull apart Ruby Riot and Nikki Cross. Sorry about your luck, Jack Gallagher, because you're not part of the UK show, even though you could be. When Neville came out during the finals of that UK tournament and said, you know what, I was looked over in the Cruiserweight Classic, now I'm overlooked in the UK Classic, I could have gotten both of these belts already. Jack Gallagher could say the same thing, except he's a babyface, so he won't spit out that kind of truth. This was a really, really fun show. They're doing a really good job of revamping after we lost a lot of talent to the Superstar fuck-up. NXT's doing alright, and it's a lot of fun, and it's always a show that I look forward to talking to you guys about. I don't have to sit there and worry about it being long, because it's not 3 hours. I don't have to sit there and worry about it being bizarre, like SmackDown. It's NXT, it's fun, it's great. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. I hope I'm sharing with you the amount of fun I have with NXT. Let me know down in the box below about all of that. Like I say, check out the Raw 3 Count, the new series that I'm doing on Monday nights. Check out the Q&A. Back in March. We're going to do another one in May. If you want to be a part of it, throw your questions down in the box below on that video. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.